Nope. If you've seen my Bad Boys review, you know that The Watchers was the second film I saw during my double feature day today. This film was on my list of top 10 most anticipated for this year. Wow. I don't know why. I guess the premise seemed interesting, and I thought maybe the fact that M. Night Shyamalan's daughter was directing it might be a good thing. She might have some promise, but she's got a ways to go, y'all. She was involved in the story too. And the problem is, oh my gosh, I'm just jumping right into the bad stuff. I was not happy with this film. And the more I think about it, the more unhappy I am with it. The premise is interesting. Once you find out what's going on, it's still interesting. The problem is, while the first half of it is okay, it takes this turn and things happen that are dumb. Characters do things that make no sense. And it's just like, I just can't. I don't even feel like I can adequately put into words what exactly was wrong with this film, but I knew it when it started to happen. I was drawn into it in the beginning, but then once it's revealed what's happening, it's like she didn't know what to do with the material. Like, she didn't know how to adequately bring things to a satisfying conclusion. There's this attempt to do a Shyamalan-y twist on it. And okay, well, so, all right, so yeah, there's a twisty thing. But the way the film was constructed, you were expecting that already. So it wasn't anything hugely surprising, especially when you got a name like Shyamalan attached to it. I am going to get a little bit spoilery, and I'll try to indicate to you when that's going to happen, just because there are so many things. And there have been times where I had a lot of issues that involve spoilery stuff, and I've just decided not to mention it. But you know what? I don't care. With this movie, I don't care. I'll set you up with the premise. Dakota Fanning's character, she lives in Ireland. You do get the sense that she hides her true self from people. You don't exactly know why. You later pick up on the fact that something tragic happened when she was a young child involving her mother. This seems to still bother her a lot. She ends up having to take this bird from this pet store that she works in. She's supposed to deliver this bird somewhere. She gets lost in the forest because the GPS takes her in this crazy forest, and then everything goes wonky and her car dies. And she's lost, and the forest is spooky, creepy, and she runs into someone who shelters her in this place in the middle of the forest that they call the coop. You've seen it in the trailers if you've watched the trailer. Now, I cannot remember that actress's name with the white hair, but I've talked about her in other reviews. She played in The Tourist. She also played in Cult Killer. I feel like I'm seeing her a lot more nowadays. Maybe that's just because I started paying attention to her as an actor. And so now it just feels like she's everywhere I look. Not really, but anyway, whatever. She's a striking looking woman. She's got this shock of white hair and a very severe looking face, but there's something about her that I really like. I like to watch her. And it was no exception this movie. She was fine in here. So Dakota Fanning's character is in the coop with three other people. The Irish woman, a young woman, and a young man. And all that she understands is she has to stay in this coop at night, stand in front of the glass when the watchers come out to look at them, and there are certain rules that she has to follow. If not, terrible things will happen. So she eventually decides she wants to break some rules because she doesn't really believe what the character, oh my gosh, I forgot the white-haired woman's name. Madeline. Her name is Madeline. She doesn't necessarily trust what Madeline is saying, so she starts to push the boundaries. Things happen, and it's like, well, okay, can't push the boundaries anymore. And then there's stuff that they find out, and then they hatch a plan to try to make it out of the coop and able to, in other words, to get out of that forest, because apparently once you're lost in there, you can't get back out, and you're not going to make it if you don't stay in the coop at night because the watchers will come out. It was interesting up to a point. It's revealed what the watchers are, And then things kind of go a bit wonky. I mean, I'm sort of drawn in and watching and trying to figure out, okay, well, what's going to be the explanation for this and what's going to be the explanation for this. And then they get to a certain point and the story's wrapping up, but then there's a reveal and then there's like a sort of a final showdown and then the end. And that last half of the movie is where everything fell apart for me. Hold on a minute. I have a dog that acts like she wants to get in my lap. She's been pacing because there's still a storm going on. One moment. Come on, Chib. I forgot what I was saying right before I paused to let Chibi get up in my lap, but I'm going to head now into everything that was wrong with this film. The pros that I've already touched on, the premise was interesting, and I felt like it could have gone somewhere pretty solid, but unfortunately it didn't. It was very atmospheric. The direction in the beginning was pretty good. I really didn't have any complaints with it, except it was like once the reveal happened and things took place after that, it really felt like she just did not know how to carry it through. She didn't know how to execute the rest of this idea. I had all sorts of questions and issues. At one point in the movie, Mina, the character of Dakota Fanning, she decides she's going to go down into what they call the burrow. It's like a bunch of holes, big holes in the ground that are like these interconnecting tunnels that these creatures stay in the day. She goes down into the tunnel, and conveniently there's rope that she can use. Somehow they had rope at the coop. So the problem is, why and how did they have this rope? Because the coop doesn't really have anything in it except like a table, a couch, a TV where they watch DVDs of old shows. Where and who the heck was carrying around a rope that they had that was just so conveniently able to be used? That is a minor quibble, to be honest. If the rest of the movie had been solid, that wouldn't have even registered much. I would have just been like, oh, that's convenient. They have this rope that's long enough to reach exactly where she needs to go. That's a minor thing. Some of the other things I wrote down as cons were actually explained, so I removed them from the list. But then there's some other stuff that happened that was just kind of nonsensical. At one point, these creatures are trying to break into the coop, and they have magically found a door that leads to underneath, to this vast, like this facility area underneath. Now, how in the heck they never discovered this thing after all the months that some of the people have been spending in there, that just blows my mind, but whatever. They found it at the right exact moment. They're able to get it open at the exact right time. Well, the creatures are trying to break through the door, trying to break through the glass that comprises one wall of the coop, and the door. So to try to stop them from breaking into the door, they push the table up against the door. Okay. Except the problem is the door opens from the other way. It doesn't open inside. The table's not going to do a damn thing. It's like that crazy scene in The Big Lebowski where he puts this thing to prop up and protect the door, but the door opens in the wrong way. And that was played for comedic purposes. This wasn't comedic. It was just kind of like, what? So then that was like, okay, whatever. Then they go down into, well, number one, I don't know how in the world it is that the electricity manages to work in this place that is, hasn't been manned. It's like this coop taking care of these people like they're...
I'm sorry.
All right, what was I saying when you came in? No, what was I saying? I don't remember. What was it? Okay. Oh, I was talking about the fact that electricity magically works at this place. And they go down in the facility and electricity magically works as well there. And so that was a whole, okay, but whatever. That's also still pretty minor. The thing with the door, though, and the table, that's dumb. The other stuff was like, okay, all right. But these were things that were adding up, giving me a problem. Then they escape from that area. They've figured out a way to get out because they find this stuff down below the coop that gives them like exposition through these recordings that they find. So they've hatched their plan. They're going to escape. So they know that they have to follow the bird. Like, follow the bird. The bird will lead you to the right way to escape and you can get to the boat. So this bird that she's had with her for however long she's been stuck at the coop with these people, and it's apparently been a while because the way the narration goes makes you think it's been a while. She takes the bird with her. Bird's in the cage. She lets the bird out so that they can follow the path the bird takes. All right, That's fine. And the bird's flying along and they're just following the bird. Then they stop to gaze at something on the ground that ties in with the watchers and everything that's going on. And yet magically, they're still able to follow the bird even though they'd stopped a bit. That bird would have been well out of sight. They wouldn't have been able to see it anymore unless the bird magically knew to just kind of hang around until they were done, but no way. So that was like, wait, what? And then when they finally get to the point where they are ready to get in the boat, or when they're escaping, whatever, she has the bird back in the cage. How? Oh, that made no sense. And then when they're ready to get on the boat and escape, one of the characters, the young man. Okay, so let me backtrack a little bit. The woods and the watchers play tricks on you, okay? You can hallucinate in the woods and see things that aren't real. The watchers can mimic humans, certain humans. So that's why it's like at night, you got to keep the door closed and not let anybody in, even if they're banging at the door asking. So they're getting ready to get into the boat. And the guy who's been stuck in this situation knows better than to trust anything he sees in the forest. Oh, he just gets how conveniently tricked by someone that he thinks is another person, even though he knows very well and they're screaming at him, no, don't trust him, it's not real. Well, he gets killed because he makes this really stupid mistake that makes no sense. He shouldn't have, because he knows better. That was annoying. So now it's the three girls left. It's Mina, it's Madeline, and I forgot the other chick's name. They go back to civilization and they don't realize that inadvertently they brought a watcher back with them. And Mina has pieced all this stuff together, and she just somehow magically knows that this watcher is going to show up at the other chick's house. And so she goes there and says, oh, the watcher's going to come. They always come. How does she know the watcher's going to come right back there? Why would the watcher come back there when the watcher has been freed into civilization? That makes no sense at all. And then the watcher does show up, okay, magically, because the watcher's supposed to. The watcher shows up, goes in the house, throws down a little bit on the two girls, and then goes outside the house and does some stuff, and then comes back inside. That whole thing was wonky and weird. It made no sense. And they have this dialogue and this exchange, and just the whole way that part happened was nonsensical and ridiculous. And by that point, which was, well, the end, I say by that point, the movie was already losing me well before that point. But by that point, I was like, yep, nope, this movie is not good to me. I cannot give this a positive review. And I was so aggravated that I toyed with the idea of just coming home and doing a live stream review, kind of like how I did when I saw The Shift and Silent Night that night. But the only thing that held me back from doing that was because I liked Bad Boys Ride or Die enough that I wanted to actually do a full-on review for it. So I decided that I would do a review for this one, and I have honestly talked way too long. This film was such a disappointment, and it's probably going to go in my top 10 worst. I was not expecting to feel that way, just like I wasn't expecting to dislike In a Violent Nature as much as I did. But this one, just because of the convolutedness of everything in the second half or last third of the movie, this one is beaten a little bit by even In a Violent Nature, which I scored a skosh higher than this one. Not by much, though. The last thing I expected from these three movies that I've watched in the span of 24 hours was to come away from them with Bad Boys Ride or Die being my number one this week. So there's that. I feel like I should have told you guys what the watchers were. For whatever reason, I kept that a secret. I don't know why. Yeah, this one was not... Like I said, the first half of it was okay. I do see the promise that was in this story, but the execution, it just could not bring it to a satisfying completion and conclusion. I'm disappointed to have to say that, but it is what it is. Okay, I don't have anything else. Later, guys.